As an avid stealth camper, I love to watch programs like Naked and Afraid, where these fantastic men and women are prepared to get naked and afraid for my entertainment. So all props to them. But I sometimes think that they are sitting perhaps surrounded by food that they don't even know is food, and they're starving half to death for 21 days. So I'm just sitting in an area where I built myself a nice little stealth bed, and within a few yards I found what looks like dandelion. Dandelion has got a root which you can dry and grind into coffee. I think the leaves are edible. Let's try one. And then close to it I found oxalis or sorrel. This is a 3-leaf clover. That's got oxalic acid in it. It's got a sour, slightly sour taste. Now, these palms behind me, I looked it up. All palms have got a heart, which is like a central area that is full, chock-a-block with carbohydrate that you can eat, cooked or raw. So these trees in their center stem, so there's a palm tree, and here is a palm tree, Strelitzia Nicolai. And I have looked at the center of these trees. They've got a nice soft center, and it's apparently edible. Chock-a-block full of carbohydrates. I've cut them open before and just used it for throwing knives into because it's so nice and soft in the center. Let's just so I'm sitting surrounded by trees that would supply me with a huge amount of food. Let's just have a look I don't want to stop the camera, but from where I am, here is a palm tree. Now we go to here. Now this tree has got these little fruits, and it's called Syzygium. They are tart. They're like a super fruit. They're sweet and somewhat sour. Look, here's two off the bush. Yum, yum. So I'm standing with food behind me, and I'm busy eating these Syzygiums. Now this here is a nasturtium. It's also edible. Got a kind of a peppery taste. Then here is a hibiscus flower. Makes quite a nice tea. You just put it in, you just dip it in water, and this is a portulaca family. It's called the speckworm in our area. These little fatty leaved plants are definitely edible. They're actually quite delicious. This particular tree with these little berries that look like this, the leaves and these little flowers, deadly poisonous. Absolutely you don't want to eat them. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful smell at night, and you can actually crush these flowers up and leaves drop them into a pond and it will kill the fish. It'll actually make them float to the top, and then you can eat the fish. Well, here's a lovely little stream and a mountain, and here is an oak tree, and lying on the ground are some acorns. So I'm going to pick up the few that I can see lying around here. I'm sure there's a technique for opening them. And rotten. So what I'm going to now do is I'm going to pour hot water into this flask. And then we're going to put the decent acorns in here, and that's supposed to soak out the tannins. Well, we are managing to find some reasonably decent acorns among them. So let's put the decent ones into our flask so they can soak out the tannins. After the acorns have sat for 4 hours in a flask of boiling water, I have a look at the color of the water. Looks pretty brown, so that means it's still got tannins in it. And that means we're going to replenish the water with some more boiling water to soak out those tannins. And let's leave the acorns in there for a further few hours. See what color the water comes out. It's got to be clear. This is the way I normally make porridge with oats. Just cut them up. So there is our hot, straight from the flask acorns. Grind it up a little bit. Gonna put in some milk. Now I would normally put some sugar, quite a lot of sugar, with my porridge. This is the first time I've ever, that I can remember, eaten acorns. I would microwave it just to make it a bit hotter, so I'm going to do that. So I warmed up the porridge a little bit more, just because the milk was cold. And this is my first time I'm having acorn porridge. It doesn't have to be cooked because it's already been cooked in the flask overnight. That's hot. Quite delicious. I don't think, if somebody didn't tell me that it was acorns, I don't think I'd know. Because the strong flavor here is the flavor of the dates. It's got a darkish color like we have maltabella porridge. But it's certainly very, very edible. Well, stealth camping will set you free, but he who shall forage shall be free indeed. You know, societies which were hunter-gatherer societies, you don't find much left over of their records normally in the Fertile Crescent when people became sedentary and started to grow their own crops and have their own domestic animals. Then they started to build in civilizations and leave traces. But stealth camping has the advantage that when the brown stuff hits the twirly thing and you can stealth camp, you can get away. And also if there's war or political turmoil in the country, you can escape. But you're only free if you can survive. So stealth camping will help you to live in the countryside, but you need to live off the land. So I show in this video how you can find all over the place where you're not expecting it, especially in people's gardens. Gardens are full of plants which are actually edible. And even in the veld, in the bush, where you find monocots, you can normally find in the center of the monocot some sort of, they call it the heart of the palm. You can find some sort of section that you can eat. It's actually, you can eat it raw, you can eat it cooked, but it's full of carbohydrates. Just like, this is like porridge, you can taste that it's full of carbohydrates. As I say, the first time I'm eating porridge made from acorns. And now I want to get on and make some acorn coffee. We've taken some of the acorn out of the thermos flask. We're going to put it into our air fryer. We're going to air fry those acorns, and let's try it and see. We'll put it on the highest temperature of the air fryer, and let's put it on for about 15 to 20 minutes. So here is the rest of it, and it came out, having cooked it for so long, overnight, it came out quite sticky. And I want to see if it's possible to make an unleavened sort of bread or cake out of it. So I've got some normal wheat flour. Oops, I think I was a little bit careless, trying to hold the camera and turn it at the same time. So it's somewhat crumbly, but it hasn't burned. So let's leave those unleavened acorn bread to cook. Made a sort of an unleavened bread out of it. Just playing around and seeing what it's like. So hot. That is rather nice. They definitely taste like unleavened bread. I would say it could be cooked with less oil. It wouldn't be so greasy. Well, the good book tells us to behold the birds. They don't sow, they don't reap, and yet God provides for them. Matthew 6 verse 26, I believe. And God says, and are you not much greater than them? Much better than them? So we're eating our acorn unleavened bread, just fried in a pan. Nothing wrong with it at all. Put a bit of something on it, perhaps a bit of jelly or jam. Not bad at all. So that acorn flour, you can't taste any bitterness whatsoever. And because it was so mushy from being in the flask overnight, it just fell into being flour just with the addition of a little bit of ordinary flour. So if we are to behold the birds, let's behold the birds for a moment. You know, hunter-gatherer lifestyle, the original, let's say, lifestyle, is a pretty hard lifestyle. But that's what God says, in a sense, the hardest lifestyle, which is hunter-gathering as opposed to sedentary raising domestic crops and domestic animals. And hunter-gathering was actually a bit of a curse, because Cain was banished from Eden, sent eastward, and he was told that the ground would no longer bear anything for him, and he would have to wander, hunter-gather. And that was the curse of Cain, that he was sentenced to a life of hunter-gathering, whereas his brothers and the others were left able to cultivate the land and raise flocks. So normally when the brown stuff hits a twirly thing, one has to resort to hunter-gathering again. One is on the move, one is on the run, one is hiding from the authorities. Maybe one is hiding from Mr. 666, and you don't want his mark. Thank you, sir. No, thank you. We rather go into, as Hebrews 11 says, they were in the ravines and the caves, of whom the world was not worthy. So there's a precedent of the holy people hiding in caves and ravines. It's easy to make a hut in a ravine. Your ravine's already cut out. You just put a roof over it and you hide in your ravine or your cave. And then you have to resort to, as God says, you have to trust in God, whoever believes and doesn't doubt. And if we're better than the birds know what foods they can eat. And now I've discovered, for the first time I've eaten these acorns, very first time. Hey, it's a learning experience. It's wonderful to learn something new each day. I've eaten those plants that I showed you from the garden, and we're walking by every day if we only knew it, edible plants. So if we're better than the birds, let's at least find out, like the birds instinctively know, and then they watch other birds to learn what things you can eat. I know birds watch other birds to learn what to eat, because I have a little sugar feeder, and they don't come until that first bird is brave enough to try out the sugar feeder. And when they see that bird, how the sugar feeder works and that the bird is getting sugar from it, then suddenly there's a whole flock of birds who've learned from that. So we should learn, as humans who are better than the birds, we should learn what is edible, what is not edible. Just spend some time. And then I was too chicken almost to try out eating the leaves of plants. But why not? If you are sure that that plant is safe, you've read it, you've identified it correctly. For example, you can't mistake an oak tree and the acorns are unmistakable. You can't accidentally get a poisonous oak. Then why not at least just try it out like I've tried it out? And now you've extended your range of foods so that, say you stealth camping, and the whole point of stealth camping is to be invisible. And if you don't have to go to the supermarkets, you can just stay. Maybe you're stuck somewhere, you have to stay on the land for a while. There's an oak tree with acorns falling around. Some person could walk past that and they could be thinking there's just no food in this area, whereas they're stepping on the food. And if you walk past a palm tree, you might, or any monocot, check out the center of that monocot. Monocots that have long strap-like leaves with parallel veins. And most of them, or a lot of them, the whole grass family, etc., the palm trees, they have a heart, which is the center, which has got lots of carbohydrate, which you can eat raw or cooked. But try it out, don't obviously eat the whole thing. You just try it out, try a little bit, see how it tastes, see how you feel the next day before you go hard on it. So, if, as I say, stealth camping will set you free, but he who can forage is free indeed. Well, after half an hour or so of grinding, air frying, there are our acorns ready to be processed into coffee. Now, although I do have a coffee grinder here, I'm thinking that I'm going to try it in the mortar and pestle, because these acorns were almost falling apart. So let's just see if it's possible to grind it. Oh. Grinds very easily. Just look how easily that ground. So I didn't want to gum up the coffee grinder in case, I've never tried it before, but acorns, roasted acorns. You can always roast the acorns in some silver foil on a fire. There's our coffee grains. Let's put it into the coffee plunger with some hot water. Maybe it could have roasted a bit darker. Who knows? Let's try this out. Let's leave it to stand for a minute or two, and then see what our acorn coffee tastes like. Let's add a bit of milk and sugar. So I'm putting the usual amount of milk and the usual amount of sugar so that I know what, it's kind of the usual color almost. Well, cheers. That is definitely a pleasant taste. That is nice. It's kind of got a nuttiness. There's no bitterness. I think I boiled all the bitterness out of the... So it's far less bitter almost than regular coffee. And almost with a slightly... I'm a taste barbarian. Everything tastes normally fine to me. But yeah, it tastes, as I say, slightly nutty. That's the best I can do. I'm sure other people who are better at tasting things and can distinguish flavors. So even our acorn coffee, I would call it quite drinkable. I've never really liked coffee without milk and sugar, so maybe I should have tried it without milk and sugar to start off with. Well, we can always make some more. Not bad.